Welcome, dear friends. Here we are. Another week, another topic of study here at Kardec Radio. My name is Shane Martin. I am bringing this topic to you from the Spirit Society of Richmond in Richmond, Virginia, and it's an honor to be working with Kardec Radio to bring to you the study of the Medium's book. And that's my personal book that you'll see. There's a lot of dog ears, a lot of writing. And this is one of the first books that I purchased after the Spirits book when I first got to know Spiritism way back in 2010 when I was working at the NIH with our friends in Baltimore. So the seed was planted, and today we are here to study the Medium's book. A group of scholars every week are bringing to you different chapters of the Medium's book so the way we can learn. By now, you would have learned that we are all mediums. The mediums are those who can sense the presence of spirits around them. So you are a medium. Even if you don't see them clear as day, if you don't speak to them directly, if they don't come through you through psychographic messages or through listening to them, you have what we call subliminal mediumship or intuitive mediumship. We all do. Mediumship is a faculty that is an organic faculty of the physical body. So some of us have more developed mediumship, or which we call ostensive mediumship, and others have subliminal or intuitive mediumship. So regardless of what type you have, you are capable of perceiving the presence of spirits. And then as we perceive the presence of spirits, we want to evaluate those presences, those communications, and we want to learn more so that we can improve. And then depending on our abilities, we can go use those abilities for the good of all. So today we're talking about the medium's moral influence. How is it so? As we look around ourselves, we see different types of spirits, right? We are on the earth, planet of trials and expiations, undergo planetary transition. The Spirits book brings to us around question 100, item 100, all the way to 113, 116, the hierarchy of spirits. The majority of us on the earth still have matter over spirit. We are imperfect spirits undergoing the progress through reincarnations to become good and pure spirits one day. So the moral influence of the medium. Do we have mediums that are only good? If mediumship is for the good, why don't we have only mediums of moral elevation? Why do we have people, why do we have spirits reincarnated on the earth of a moral development that is not ideal that can also be mediums? And those are the questions that we're going to answer today. And we'll talk about how we can improve our own relationship with the spirits through our moral development. This chapter is organized in items, and the second part of the chapter has a dissertation by the spirit Erasmus that we're going to be talking about later. So, dear friend, the first question that Kardec brings to us is, does the development of mediumship have any relation to the medium's moral development? In other words, do we have mediumship only to those who are morally evolved, like Chico Xavier and Divaldo Franco, for example? Or are those who have less moral ability, right? Let's say, for example, someone who is committing crimes in the neighborhood, taking the lives of others, right? Those are people who have less moral values. And the spirits tell us that no, the faculty of mediumship is organic and independent of morality. So mediums can be highly evolved or mediums can be less evolved. See, Jesus, highly evolved, medium of God. Us, less evolved, receiving communications from different spirits. However, the same does not apply concerning the use of the mediumship, its use, which can be good or bad according to the medium's character. So let's say we have someone who is out there in medicine, developing a cure to a disease, and they receive inspiration, they receive instructions on how to develop a new pharmaceutical, how to develop a new protocol for a disease. That's using your mediumship to the good. Or we have another scientist in a different place developing a nuclear bomb. Then that mediumship is used for, and of course, there's an intellectual component, right, friends? We have to have education to be either in the physics or in the medical field. But he's saying here, the spirits are saying to us, and I might use he, she, or they, depending on how the book comes. But the spirits collectively tell us mediumship is organic. You can have mediumship. We all have a level of mediumship, subliminal or extensive. But what we do with the mediumship is what matters. Remember, we have our examples, Chico Xavier and Divaldo. Highly evolved mediumship abilities. They chose to use their mediumship to do the good. Others around the world have highly developed mediumship and choose to use it for evil. I'll give an example that is more attainable, right? Chico Xavier and Divaldo over there, they did way more than we can do, even though they're examples for us of what can be done if we choose in one lifetime. Let's talk about someone who's writing books. You can sit and write a book that has content that is good. A book that clarifies history lessons, that clarifies solutions for a medical problem, that summarizes a disease that others will use. Or you can write books that are of negative nature, pornographic nature, war nature, that incites on us negative. So those two writers may have mediumistic abilities and even say, I received it, I sit there, I just let it flow, the universe send me ideas. They might not even know the word medium or be spiritists, but they're using the mediumship of the good. And one of the good things about us being here today, with me, with you, with the spirits around us, and all of the friends, is that as we learn, we educate our mediumship. Even if it's just receiving an intuition from our mentors, now that we know, we are better able to make those discernments. So what are you doing with your mediumship? If you're able to see, hear, let's start thinking about it. Journal every day, right? Question 919 of the Spirit's book. What are the most common thoughts that I have and ideas? Because that will tell you who is surrounding you. That has to do with our moral development. So we can have mediums of great abilities who do evil or bad, as he's using the word bad. And then you will have mediums with same great abilities who have moral development, and then they use their abilities for the good of humanity. Why isn't mediumship only present in moral individuals, right? So if we want to progress, to do the good, why is God allowing individuals that don't have the moral development to have mediumship? It's a very fair question that comes in the next item, right? It's still item 226, but the second question. What do you think, friends? If we are saying that we need to use our mediumship to the good, why is it that we look around and we say there's no way? Why are that person doing this and using their mediumistic abilities to hurt others? And the spirits will tell us all faculties are, I know that's a lot to read, but we need to read the text in order to understand. All faculties, which include mediumship, are favors for which we should give thanks to God. For there are men or women who are deprived of them, right? The same way we thank God for our eyesight, our hearing, and our olfaction, and able to use our hands to have health. Others don't. So we say, thank you, God, for giving me the gift of mediumship. You might as well ask God why God gives sight to malefactors, thieves, eloquence to those who say evil things. This is the same with mediumship. Unworthy persons are endowed with mediumship because they have a greater need of it to be improved. So he continues, it's for them to profit it. Even Judas, the traitor, the apostles performed miracles and healed the sick. They weren't like perfect. God permitted Judas to have his gifts to render his treason more odious. So when we know of mediumship, when we have the knowledge, then we have to know, why is God allowing me, even though I'm not perfect, to know mediumship? He's saying to improve ourselves. When someone is a medium, they're learning so much. They're learning discipline in their thoughts, discipline in their emotions, discipline in their daily activities, because you have to be regimented to do the good so that you can align with good spirits. So God is saying to those who are given the most, more will be asked. If someone has mediumship and they're using it to the good, as we see later in the chapter, the spirits tell us most of the time, the spirits warn them, the mediums, of their errors. Let's look at an example, which I can bring next time, because next time we're going to be talking about, next week, we're going to be talking about the surroundings, the around us, the influence of the surroundings, or where we are, how we do it, how influence mediumship. I'll bring images and examples from the book, The Messengers. The Messengers is all about mediums. Mediums were prepared for decades to return to the earth in different realms of religious life. Some of those mediums are Catholics, some were evangelical, some were Protestant, some were Spiritists. And we know there are mediums everywhere on the earth. In that book, we see the moral development of those mediums were different than their mediumistic abilities, and some followed the good, some didn't. The majority of the examples, unfortunately, are of failures. So if you are a medium, if you know someone who is a medium, we need to work on self-improvement. As we improve, as we're going to see how later, then we can count on affinity with good spirits that then guide us and counsel us so that we can improve even more. So not only when we see a medium, that's the other important thing that mentors are just inspiring us to think about, is when we see a medium, if someone says to you, I'm a medium, I see a spirit around you, sometimes we are so gullible that we go, oh my God, that person must be wonderful. Then we have to say, well, let's take a step back and say, what are they doing with the mediumship? What is the mediumship being used for? So we can be more discerning of who we interact with and who we don't. So he says, good use or bad use of mediumship. Remember in the beginning we talked about the mediumship faculty is organic. Either you have it or you don't have it, but you educate it. The good, he says, the use of mediumship can be good or not, because it depends on how morally developed we are. And he says, if you make good use, or if you make bad use of mediumship, what happens? Of course, we have relative free will. God gives us the gift the same way God gives you the gift of walking. Are you walking to do the good, or are you walking to commit a crime? Are you seeing things or hearing things so that you can help people and coach them, or are you using that for gossip of others? It's a faculty just like others. But for every action, there is a reaction. So what are the consequences of how you and I use our mediumship? Because I want to make always, when we do these studies, which are blessed, we want to think about how does it affect me, right? So good use and negative use. And the spirits will say, if they use it wrongly, the mediums, they will be doubly punished, meaning action, consequence. Because they have a means of being enlightened and not to profit by it, right? We know mediums who have great abilities, and what do? They sell their mediumship to those who can pay. Mediumship is always free, friends. He who sees clearly and stumbles is more blamable than the blind man who falls into the ditch. So if you have two folks, one who knows of mediumship and one who doesn't, and the one who doesn't goes into error, they have more attenuating circumstances because they didn't know. The same way that if you're here watching Kardec Radio with and learning about mediumship with this study and all the beautiful hosts that we had, Then we have to think about, now I know that I'm an immortal soul. I know that I'm reincarnated on the earth. I know that there is a reason for the being, so on and so forth. If I choose not to transform that knowledge into action, then my consequences are greater than if someone on the street who are just going about their lives and only worrying about the physical. So how are you, again, go back to us, how are we using our mediumship? And if I know I'm a medium, am I fulfilling the duty that God gave to me, this beautiful faculty of mediumship for growth, for helping others, or am I using it for my own profit? So we use it, and then we have a consequence. The next part is talking about communications. Now we talked about, we have mediums. Those mediums can be highly evolved in moral development or less moral development. So mediumship is equal, right? Equality. Everybody could be a medium. It's not given just for those who have merit and are morally evolved. What are the consequences of the misuse? So he says mediumship is organic. You use it for good or use it for evil. And if you use it for evil, there will be consequences, right? Now we're talking about communications of the same type. Let's say you are a medium and all you hear is the same message. All you write is the same message. All you see is the same message. The spirits tell us the motive of these repetitive communications is to enlighten them, the mediums, on a subject that is often repeated to correct the mediums of certain faults. And sometimes it's very subtle because it comes in a, you are going through a difficulty and you have that idea in your mind, you should do this, and you ignore it. And next time we see ourselves in similar conditions, you should do this, and we ignore it. Those are our spirit friends telling us, warning us that something in our life needs to, we have to make a turn, we have to solve a problem. So sometimes mediums will say, I only received this message, I only do this. It's because we need to enlighten ourselves. We need to change the way we're seeing something so that the progress can truly happen. Because progress occurs when we apply the teachings. Because here on earth, we are on tests, right? It's trials and expiations. It's not going to the beach planet every day. It's trials and expiations. It's the second rung of the evolution of the planet. So we are here to learn. And we return with the grace of God many times. And many times throughout millennia, mediums are developing their mediumship. And this time we're here. We learned in the spiritual realm when we're here to apply. And then we have to know of these and we have to apply it. What else, friends? Let's say the communications of the mediums, regardless of their moral authority, are generic, meaning they're not specifically for that medium. It's not specifically for you and I if you're the mediums. So what do we learn from these communications? The spirits say, such warnings and advice are not directed to the mediums, but to others we can only reach through mediumship. Let's say, for example, messages that we have in the Spirit's books, right? The Spirit's book are messages from spirits. They're generic in form. They are for you and I, but they've served millions of people all over the world. It's not us receiving a specific message about our family, about our problems, about the things we have to work on. But the spirits tell us mediums should try to profit themselves. So any communication that we receive as a medium, that a medium receives, is worthy of evaluation, analysis, and dissection. Every time a medium produces a communication, the spirits say they need to profit. Even if the message is not directly to the medium can still learn from it. And that's true for all of us, right? We read a message. Let's say, for example, the series of Joana de Angelis. It's all about emotional, psychological, spiritual growth, right? So all of us can benefit from the teachings in that book, even if we're not the ones receiving it. But if you are a medium and you're in a spiritist group and you keep receiving a message that is the same, then they would be in the part of communications of the same type. Subjects are repeated, but if they're more generic, they are for the populace. And then the spirits will tell us mediumship is given to all humankind. Mediums are important instruments, but the mediums are not the only ones who benefit from the communications. Throughout the history of humans, you go back to the book To Evolution in Two Worlds by Andrea Louise, we see that we evolve in two worlds. We evolve through the interaction between the two worlds. So mediumship has been present everywhere. We in Spiritism, a branch of spiritualism, are here looking at the moral aspect of that medium that is receiving the communication. How can that sway a communication to be of one kind versus the other, and how we can use those communications for the improvement of that medium. And when I say that medium or the communications of a medium, I'm also including us, the ones who are not ostensive mediums, because we are all interacting with the spiritual realm. So mediumship is a faculty of being human. So if it's something that you and I can have, we need to learn how to use it. It's also a tool for improvement as well. Is it possible to receive good communications through an imperfect medium? So it's talking about, if mediumship is so important for us to receive, why isn't God allowing those who are less morally evolved to have? And in the event that there's no perfect medium, can the spirits utilize an imperfect medium as a vessel for the communications? What do you think? Because remember, trials and expiations, meaning the majority of us still are over matter, over spirit, so there's no perfection. And spirits will tell us imperfect mediums can sometimes obtain good communications, since if they have good faculty, good spirits can use them in the absence of better ones in special circumstances. So we want to be the good vessel. We want to be a vessel that is clean and not impure, right? So that when we receive the communication, we can pass it along. That would be the ideal. That's Jesus. Jesus talks, hear from God, understand God, and comes to us to pass God's word. You and I are imperfect mediums, of course, because we are not highly evolved as Jesus. But he says sometimes imperfect mediums receive good spirits communication. In the book, there's a couple of books from Emmanuel in the series of Emmanuel romance novels, where there's an oracle, which today we would call psychics, right? So those are folks who have mediumistic abilities, and they do what? They charge for their services. So who goes to psychics, who goes to mediums? We're not judging. Those who want to know about things of this earth. Am I going to marry to someone? Is this going to happen? Should I take that job? And then if the medium engages on that kind of activity, what kind of spirits will be around them? The frivolous spirits who are trying to make us, right? Make fun of us. However, there's one story where a lady goes to the oracle, and then she's trying to obtain a potion to poison someone else. And I'm paraphrasing very superficial type of story, because I want you to go and read the books, right? 2,000 years ago, and it goes on and so forth. Then what happens? The oracle is engaging in this frivolous activity. However, the spirits need to warn the lady not to poison the other one. So superior spirits comes through the oracle in a moment of communication and warn that person. And what happens? The person ignores the advice, spoiler alert, and go trying to poison someone else. So yes, the spirits can use it. If there's no better ones, they're going to use the imperfect vessel. But then we have to understand that if we are not imperfect, we're not going to be able to pass the message as it should be, as with fidelity as we should. So it's not impossible. to receive good communications from imperfect mediums. But of course, friends, we are on the earth. We don't have perfect mediums, right? So we imperfect mediums will do sometimes. Now, we talked about imperfect mediums being able to receive good communications. Let's talk about what would be a perfect medium. We started this conversation by establishing that mediumship can be with those who are morally evolved and those who are not morally evolved. That God allows those who are less morally evolved to have mediumship so they can improve, right? The same way God allows those who commit crimes to see, to hear, so on and so forth. And then we talked about how can we understand that sometimes a good message will come from a less perfect vessel and imperfect spirits. So what would it be for us to be a perfect medium? Let's say you are a medium. Let's say in this life you are not an ostensive medium, but over the millennia, one day you're going to be a medium, because the spirits will tell us in the future many more good mediums will be around. So what are these qualities that we want to impart on ourselves? Because remember, we can only change ourselves. Perfect, he says, alas, you know very well there's no perfection on the earth. So the spirits are looking at us with kindness, with goodness, and say, you are still a work in progress, but we're going to help you. So there's no true perfection on the earth. The only perfect spirit that has ever incarnated on the earth is Jesus. And that's it. And he was the medium of God. And there are other mediums who are better, but most of us are still imperfect. And then he says, instead of perfect, we use good mediums. The spirits say good mediums. And that is saying much, and they are very rare indeed. So the majority of mediums are medium. Mediums are mediocre mediums, or like average. Let's use the word average. So good mediums, Chivaldo, Chico, Euripes Barçanova, right? Those who are proeminent in the movement, who choose to use their abilities to the good, and we can see the moral progress and the choices. But the majority of us are imperfect. So thank God for allowing us imperfect mediums to receive good communications every so often. And the spirits say in this part, is the item 226.9, that there would be a time will come when good mediums will be quite common and good spirits will no longer have to use faulty instruments. Why is it faulty? Is it because the less morally evolved we are, less likely we are able to even understand the message of the good spirits that are trying to come to us? So there's no perfect mediums. Perfect mediums are those whom evil spirits will never dare to try to deceive. So, dear friends, you and I are just average spirits, and that's good, because we want to be. We're not diminishing anybody. We're talking about good mediums are rare, and perfect mediums, the evil spirits don't even dare to deceive. Because when we are imperfect, we may be immersed in an environment that we create through our actions, through our thoughts, through our feelings, through our companionships, that invite the presence of who? Spirits of a lower nature, and those are the ones we transmit the image. And that's okay. We need to recognize where we are, what do I have that is already good, and we keep those, and what are the things we need to work on. And then if I know I'm an imperfect vessel, then I work for the vessel to be better. We say good mediums because they are rare indeed. I repeated it because this is very important. So when we see mediums, and we are so gullible when we think that everybody who can talk to spirits and receive messages are more elevated, sometimes we exalt them in a pedestal, and that can cause those mediums to fall into pride, which is a way we're going to see later that many mediums lose waste the opportunity of this reincarnation because we fall into pride. So if the majority of spirits are not, the majority of mediums are not good, they're rare, what conditions are necessary so the word of the highly evolved spirits comes to us without alteration? So if I want to be a good vessel, a good medium, to have the highly evolved spirits talk to me, the spirits tell us what to do. They say, desire only what is good and avoid selfishness and pride. Both are necessary conditions. I have to desire to do what's good and avoid selfishness and pride. And why is not only one and the other? It's both. It's and. It's like that Venn diagram. It's what is in the middle. Both do what's good and avoid selfishness and pride. Unfortunately, the majority of us are still in the selfishness and pride, right? Because when we have time, we dedicate to ourselves, or my family, my experiences, my job, my. And that's exactly what the good mediums that we know, Chico Xavier and Deval, did. What did they do? They desired to do the good, and it was not about them. It was not about doing what they wanted, but to do what God wanted of them, and their mentors were able to guide them to do the truth. So if I want to receive messages from highly evolved spirits, that's easy. Desire what's good and avoid selfishness and pride. And I'm saying this chicken tongue, right? But you want to receive good messages. I want to receive good messages. Even if we are not ostensive mediums and we're talking and conversing with the spirits because we're not ready for it, we haven't developed our mediumship, you still want to receive good intuition, good counsels. And if today I know that's what I need to do, then I will go and start doing the good. Start thinking of what's good. When I go to the grocery store, when I'm driving, when I'm at my house, I don't say, oh, I have to wash the dishes. No, I get to, because I have food to eat. I get to drive. Remember, Paul walked, Jesus walked. I get to study and do the test. I get to do things. I bless God. I thank God for the blessings that I have in my life. So when I desire only what's good for others and for myself, and I start working on in which aspects of my life am I being selfish and I'm being prideful. And that's lifetime after lifetime of working on ourselves to know what I want, what I should be wanting, right? I want to sleep, I wanted to rest, but there are messages to translate. There are spiritist meetings on the weekends to go to, right? I could choose the park, I could choose the beach, I could choose the birthday party, but I choose to go to the spiritist center because that's something that nourishes my soul and allows me to be of service, and I receive help at the same time. One simple example, but we have to understand we are still very physically related to matter on this very physical planet, and then we have to start slowly building, knowing and then aiming for it, right? Jesus never was worried about how many passport stamps he had. He was worried about doing the good. Go watch The Chosen, go read the New Testament. So you can feel he was always doing the good every day. Mediums are instruments. So if you know someone who is a medium, they are instruments. They are connecting and bringing messages from the spiritual realm to the physical realm. They know of their relationship. And there are many, many mediums out there who do not know they're mediums. They don't understand. They just think whatever they think and do comes from them, but they are really being instruments. And there are others who are clearly aware that they are mediums and they're being instruments of good or instruments of evil. The mediumship is, let's say, neutral, just like vision is neutral. Do I see the good or do I not see the good? My hands are neutral. Do they do the good or don't they do the good, right? Communicating spirits identify with the medium spirits. So, dear friends, what does it mean? You, we have a characteristic, we have millennia of experiences, we have our abilities. So whatever I do, think, feel, mostly in a different order. And I think, feel, and do transpire in my environment as this field energy of a sum of what I am. So spirits around me identify with what I do. So I usually say this. If I like to watch war movies, spirits will like war with me. If I like to play violent video games, spirits will like violence are with me. If I like to watch people eating too much, spirits who eat too much are with me. Yes, they are. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but that's true. So the spirits want to speak through me, write through me, talk through me, identify with my abilities, of course, right? The same way I don't like to go to certain locations because I don't feel good when I'm there, because I don't identify with that kind of behavior, right? Spirits who like to use drugs are with spirits, incarnate beings who use drugs. Very simple. That's why it's so hard to overcome addiction, but it's possible. So we are instruments. So what are we doing to attract communicating spirits that identify with the good? We have to do the good. There's a sympathy between mediums and spirits that the spirits call affinity. So what are you? What's your affinity? It's the same thing. I like some friends because they like to go to the beach. I like these friends because they go to the mountains. Different environments on earth, on nature, that brings different vibrational qualities. Very simple. I'm bringing it down to our daily lives. So what are we doing to attract and have affinity with good spirits? Attraction or repulsion according to similarity or dissimilarity between them who? The spirits and the mediums. So when we see someone communicating that is of a lower moral development, the spirits around them are low moral development. Aside on the instances where the high spirits want to talk through the medium because there's nobody else. So our job as incarnate beings or souls on this earth, who are all mediums, subliminal or ostensive mediums, as instruments in this world, is to have behaviors, thoughts, and actions and emotions that attract the good. Because you want to attract similar spirits, spirits of good affinity, spirits that make people feel good, right? So we need to make an inventory of what we're doing. That's so important. That's important to know. That's why we say go to the psychologist, get a coach, journal. Those are things that can help us better understand who we are and understand who are we attracting. What are we similar to? So if I have a spirit, and remember, these are case studies. We're not judging. But if we have spirits who like to use drugs, who don't like to work, who like to commit crimes, those are incarnate beings who like those things, it's very likely that they are with spirits who are enjoying those activities as well. And that's the same when you go volunteer. These spirits who like to work for the good, which is our destiny. When we are pure spirits, friend, we don't sit on a cloud eating grapes and playing harps forever. That would be boring. The superior spirits, just like Jesus, are working 24/7, earth time, of course, right? Earth hours, for our benefit. That's what brings joy. You and I like the beach, the party, the barbecue, whatever. But superior spirits like to do the good. So if you do the good, if you go volunteer, they are there with you. It's creating that affinity. So the spirits around you are similar to it. So that's where we're going to aim, right? There's a sympathy and affinity between spirits. So the instruments need to improve so the communicating spirits come better. Moral imperfections are doors to evil spirits. So when we know of things that are our moral imperfections, pride and selfishness, for example, we are opening doors to attract spirits that are less evolved. We call evil spirits. So remember, in the spirits book, we have the definition of good and evil. Good is doing the good and fulfilling the laws of God. And evil is when you don't do that. There's no neutral. That's important. Either you do the good or you incurring in evil. And in this chapter, Kardec used the word good and bad and evil as well. So it's just lack of goodness. So if I know of my moral imperfections, I want to work on them so the doors stay, instead of wide open, there's only a slit so less evil spirits go through. But that's the truth. We have to think of ourselves as these seas, as these filters. Everywhere we go, doing everything. If I only complain, if I only see what's lacking, or if I'm there to add, if I'm there to see what's good, the Spirit will tell us. The one imperfection the evil spirits mostly easily exploit is pride, because nobody wants to be prideful. We say, I'm proud of you, right? If we're talking about our family. But nobody wants to be prideful and be like, I'm better than everybody else, because that's the least confessed imperfection. That's the one that is most used by the evil spirits to bring us to incurring in errors. Pride has led to the loss of many mediums, gifted with the most beautiful faculties, who without pride would have been remarkable. Let me see. Which without pride would have been remarkable and highly useful instruments. So when we see someone, let me share my screen because I think it dropped. That's what we do. Oh, there you go. So pride has led to the loss of many mediums, and we are building a thesis here, right? If mediumship is a faculty that in and of itself is neutral, and it depends on how we use the faculty, to the good or to the evil. And then the spirits built a relationship to say, sometimes we use imperfect mediums. What would be a perfect medium? Like the one who seeks the good and avoid pride and selfishness. Then he's talking about pride and selfishness has led to loss of many spirits. So once we know what could lead us to lose this opportunity, to miss the mark in terms of reincarnatory plan as mediums, then we can work on it. And that's why we talk about this. We have to be humble, to go deep within and understand our motives, to be able to work on what is lacking so we can improve. Without pride, many would have been remarkable, highly useful instruments. We can think about a few examples of those who have high faculties. They can see, they can hear, they can heal, and then they go into the dark of, instead of doing the good, we promote criminal activity, we promote pornography, we promote violence, we promote war. Those are lost opportunities of service, lost opportunities of reincarnatory plans. Again, the book Messengers, when we have those spirits so highly prepared, they reincarnate in different realms of life, and we accompany them in the mistakes they've made and how they could have used their time better. So if pride is what the evil spirits can exploit the most in us, because it's one of their greatest moral imperfections, let's see how pride is expressed in mediums. All mediums, remember, subliminal and unsensitive. They say, starts with blind confidence in the superiority of communications, the ineffability of the spirit who transmits them. So I am the one who only receives superior spirits. Only Euripides Barsanova and Jesus talks through me. Everything that I write is good. That's blind confidence. And they reject counsels and shun friends and anyone who might be possibly able to open their eyes, right? So every time someone comes and say, well, have you considered? Then they're like, oh no, that person's no good. I'm the only one who receives, but all of these superior spirits we think about. So that's lack of humbleness. So that's pride. So when you are a medium, when we are mediums and we are going to go about our days, we have to think about, how am I behaving? How do I feel about my communications? How can I evaluate the communications so that less pride is shown? And they say those are unmistakable signs. So if you know of a medium, ostensive medium, that they think they're the only ones who can have the answers, we have to be careful about it. And if someone is isolating themselves, and the spirits are actually, it says on this part, on item 228, the spirits, the evil spirits use that and say, exploit this to keep them isolated and under their attraction, so they can only serve those spirits. Good mediums that are truly moral. So let's say the spirit said, sometimes good spirits will talk through imperfect mediums. They gave us all these ideas of what imperfect mediumship would be, gave us the roadmap to avoid, right, to receive good messages, do the good and avoid pride and selfishness, shown us how pride works in our lives with this blind confidence, shunning those who could help us. And now he's going to say, what would be a good medium that is truly moral, even though they told us before good mediums are rare. So there's no perfect medium on the earth, but there are good mediums and they are rare. They say they pay more attention to the language than the names. Last week, our dear friend Carol Correa emphasized this. If you are a medium, if you're a person who feels the intuition of the spirits, what are the messages? If someone says and writes, come to a medium in your spiritual center and writes, go attack this person, go do this, and signs Jesus, do you really think Jesus would write that? So that's the language that the spirits speak through psychophony, speaks through psychography, speaks through whatever, right? What are they saying? Because anybody can impersonate anybody. Imagine nowadays we can create deep fakes with AI. Imagine the spirits can impersonate others, right? Because we don't know. The good mediums are convinced their mediumship is a gift that has been granted to them for good purposes. They never take advantage of it or attribute it of any merit to themselves. They don't sell mediumship. They don't charge. They don't think they're the only ones who can do it. They don't take advantage of mediumship for their own good. And mediumship is for service. It was given to you freely. You can develop, you can educate it and get better at it, but also can be taken from you as well. So good mediums know this is a gift from God for them to do the good. They accept good communications as blessing, though they take them for granted. They don't think they're the only ones who can have them. Remember, let's contrast with the prideful. When the pride medium, the mediums that have a lot of pride, it's manifested as a look at how great my communications is. I'm the only one who knows, right? So we have to be very careful. They put effort to render themselves worthy of the messages through goodness, benevolence, and modesty. They don't boast about the messages. They don't talk about how great they are of mediums. They talk about, I use this, I have this mediumship, I have a responsibility of doing the good. They know that God gave us this opportunity to them in this lifetime. They've been likely developing this mediumship throughout their lifetimes, and now they're able to express it more freely. All of us are intuitive mediums in the basic level, so we are all constantly receiving this influence, this messages. And remember the affinity. What are types of spirits are we relating to? And that's it. So we are inviting everyone to review this chapter, because here at the end, Erastus is going to give us a beautiful dissertation, and I marked a couple of things here. Erastus at the end will summarize that similar spirits attract each other. Groups of highly evolved spirits rarely communicate through bad conductors. They have when they have good mediumistic apparatus at their disposals. So you and I today are invited to think of ourselves as instruments. If we have this ability, How can I develop it? How can I educate it? How can I use it to do the good? And you can start simple, friends. First, how am I? Go to the Spirit's book, look at the hierarchy of spirits, analyze the content of your life in all aspects. What we think, what we feel, what we do, what we consume, who am I associating with in both realms of life, so that we can be good mediums. And next time you are blessed with receiving a message from one of those spirits, you can think, how can this message be a vessel for my improvement, for the improvement of others around me? How can I continue to do the good? How can I make myself worthy of these through goodness, benevolence, and modesty, which are truly how can I morally evolve in this lifetime? And dear friends, I hope that this has helped you. I invite you to look at the book, chapter 20, part 2 of the Medium's book. And next week, God willing, we'll talk again about the influence of the surroundings. So we're talking about the influence of the medium moral development. How can we morally improve to receive better communications? And then next week, what the environment around us can do to promote good communications and to promote the service that mediumship is. It's always a blessing and an honor to be with you, dear friends. May you stay well, may you stay safe. God willing, I'll be back with you next week with another study of the Medium's book. Take care. Bye-bye.